Hi, this is the first time I reviewed a journal from New Zealand, and it's got a lot of positives. Hi, I'm Ruby from the Useful Journal. Like this video and subscribe to my channel for more answers to your journaling questions. Today I'm reviewing a 160 GSM dot grid journal from Journal Junkies. I will give you information about the brand and their products. I will talk about the packaging of the journal, the construction, features and markings of the journal, the paper. We'll go through my pen test, and I will talk about the company's approach to social and environmental responsibility. Journal Junkies is based on the South Island of New Zealand in Christchurch. The journals are made in China. Journal Junkies sell their own branded journals as well as a wide range of journaling supplies, so they're kind of a one-stop shop for journaling in New Zealand. There are 6 choices of journal cover in both muted and bright colours, all with contrasting elastic closures. The covers are a smooth and soft leatherette with no markings at all, so they're perfect for creating your own decoration or sticking something on the cover. They only come in A5 and they all have 160 pages of 160 GSM paper. The journal arrived in a mailer made of 80% recycled material. Inside that, the items were wrapped in a thick layer of bubble wrap and then a layer of tissue paper. The journal itself was in a thin cardboard box wrapped in plastic shrink wrap. There were no free gifts with the order. The journal has an elastic closure that isn't particularly tight but has left multiple imprints on the cover in whatever position it's been left in, and that's because the cover is that soft. There is a pen loop that is stitched to the back cover with the stitches visible on the outside. There are 2 ribbons matching the colour of the elastic and pen loop that are only just long enough to pull around the corner of the notebook. The pocket on the inside of the back cover goes most of the way across the page, and a substantial ridge can be felt through the rear pages of the journal. The edges of the pages are plain, the corners are rounded, and the journal is a pretty standard 23mm thick and is significantly lighter than similar 160-page journals. The journal lays flat immediately on opening the pages. The joins between the signatures are excellent and don't sit up at the spine or have any tearing due to excess glue. The punch holes are quite large and show through on pages where they probably shouldn't. On some pages, a small amount of glue has snuck through the punch hole for the stitches and creates a tiny tear when you open at the spread with the stitching. It's really not that noticeable. I just noticed that when you open the page, you get a slight tear, and I just thought I should mention it. The spine feels okay and has a headband top and bottom of the spine to provide extra stability and help secure the ribbons that are glued in between the headband and the binding. The page edges sit nicely inside the cover. I'm unable at this stage to comment on the durability of the journal, but I'll be sure to do this when I finish using the journal and do a flip through. There are very few marked pages in this journal. The only marked page, apart from the dot grid pages, is the back page, which randomly has some lines under a statement that reads, "Congratulations, you finished your journal." The page also has some design and online links information. While the dot grid is dark in colour, the grey dots are very small and don't stand out compared to a lighter coloured dot. So while I do a dot darkness test, I should probably be also commenting on the size of the dots, because sometimes even though they're quite dark, They're just like little pinpricks because the dots are so small, and that's the case in this journal. There are 26 dots across the page and 40 dots down the page, and they are well aligned across double page spreads. There is an even space between the dots of the page edges, but the distance of the dots from the center, like from the spine center, can vary. The journal has page numbers in a largish font, and they sit inside the dot grid markings, which means boxes drawn on the page go through the page number, which I am not a fan of. The 160 GSM paper is a cool white and smooth without becoming slippery. The dry time for a Pigma Micron pen is an average 10 seconds, so smearing won't be too bad. And when watercolor paint was added to a wet page, the paint didn't sit on the top of the paper forever. It soaked in without the pigment moving to the edges of the circle, and there was a few spots, but it's not too noticeable. The paper got a slight warp when watercolors were used. Overall, the paper responds really well to liquids. I'm pleased to say that the paper was nicely smooth for writing with a fountain pen, and there was no feathering with a range of fountain pens, nibs, and brands of ink. There was no bleed through or ghosting except from the Sharpie ultrafine marker, not even from the stamp pad, calligraphy, or the fountain pen inks. Lead pencil erased cleanly. Whiteout was way too warm for the cool white paper, so I think it would be a cut and paste job if you needed to cover up mistakes on your pages. As it was for the fountain pens, the paper was a nice texture for drawing with all the pens and pencils that I tested. Watercolor had a great result. There's nice blending of colors. You were able to get some shading happening. There was no spots visible in the watercolor paintings, just in my watercolor test on wet, so I think if you avoided wet on wet, you would avoid that problem. And generally, it's a nice result, so fun to play with in this journal. Here I was thinking that environmental impacts were an issue of concern for New Zealanders, but there is no information about environmental impact at all anywhere on the Journal Junkies website. I did receive my journal in a mailer that was 80% recycled materials. It seems like the business is run by a tight team, and I like the respect paid to the Maori on their website. It's not clear at all whether they've looked into working conditions of workers in the Chinese factories where the journals are made. If Journal Junkies are doing something about environmental and social responsibility, it would be good, first of all, if they shared that on their website. And if they're not, it would be good to see if they could look into that soon and see how they could take action. Overall, this is a really nice quality, moderately priced dot grid journal. I'm a bit concerned about how marked this cover will get, not only because it's a very light colour, but also because that leatherette is so soft, and the fact that it gets marked just by the elastic makes me think that every little knock and bump this journal gets is going to mark the cover. The paper is great. There's no concerns at all about ghosting or bleed through, and I would feel pretty comfortable using most mediums, including inks and watercolor, without having to worry about what they're going to do to the paper or whether it's going to cause page crinkle. I like that Journal Junkies sell a whole bunch of other journaling supplies and try to support the work of local artists, and that makes them a one-stop shop for journaling supplies that's really convenient. The huge increases in shipping and import costs have been really tough for Australian and New Zealand businesses, so I wish Journal Junkies all the best, and I really encourage you to support them. Please like this video, subscribe to my channel, and I'll be sure to bring you another journal review soon. See ya!